Judges chapter 16. This is what it says. Samson went down to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute and went in to have sex with her. The Gazites were told, Samson has come here, so they surrounded the town and hid all night at the city gate, waiting for him to leave. They relaxed all night, thinking he will not leave until morning comes. Then we will kill him. Samson spent half the night with the prostitute. Then he got up in the middle of the night and left. He grabbed the doors of the city gate as well as the two posts and pulled them right off, bar and all. And he put them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill east of Hebron. After this, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah who lived in the Sorek Valley. The rulers of the Philistines went up to visit her and said to her, trick him, find out what makes him so strong and how we can subdue him and humiliate him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So Delilah said to Samson, tell me what makes you so strong and how you can be subdued and humiliated. Samson said to her, if they tie me up with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I will become weak just like any other man. So the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and they tied him up with them. They hid in the bedroom, and she said to him, the Philistines are here, Samson. And he snapped the bowstrings as easily as thread of a yarn snaps when it is put close to a fire. The secret of his strength was not discovered. Delilah said to Samson, look, you deceived me and told me lies. Now tell me how you can be subdued. And he said to her, if they tie me tightly with brand new ropes that have never been used, I will become weak just like any other man. So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them and said to him, the Philistines are here, Samson. The Philistines were hiding in the bedroom, but he tore the ropes from his arms as if they were pieces of thread. Delilah said to Samson, up to now you've deceived me and told me lies. Tell me how you can be subdued. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 braids of my hair into a fabric loom and secure it with a pin, I will become weak just like any other man. So she made him go to sleep, and she wove the 7 braids of his hair into the fabric on the loom and fastened it with a pin and said to him, the Philistines are here. He woke up and tore away the pin from the loom and the fabric. And she said to him, how can you say I love you when you will not share your secret with me? 3 times you have deceived me and have not told me what makes you strong. She nagged him every day and pressured him until he was sick to death of it. Finally, he told her his secret. He said to her, my hair has never been cut, for I have been dedicated to God from the time I was conceived. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me. I would become weak just like any other man. When Delilah saw that she had told her his secret, she sent for the rulers of the Philistines, saying, come up here again, for he has told me his secret. So the rulers of the Philistines went up to visit her, bringing the silver in their hand. She made him go to sleep on her lap, and she called the men in to shave off the 7 braids of his hair. She made him vulnerable, and his strength left him. She said, the Philistines are here, Samson. He woke up and thought, I will do as I did before and shake myself free. But he did not realize that the Lord had left him. The Philistines captured him and gouged out his eyes, and they brought him down to Gaza and bound him in bronze chains. And he became a grinder in the prison. His hair began to grow back after it had been shaved off. The rulers of the Philistines gathered to offer sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and celebrate. They said, our God has handed Samson, our enemy, over to us. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, our God has handed our enemy over to us, the one who ruined our land and killed so many of us. When they started celebrating, they said, call for Samson so he can entertain us. So they summoned Samson from the prison, and he entertained them. They made him stand between 2 pillars, and Samson said to the young man who held his hand, position me so I can touch the pillars that support the temple. Then I can lean on them. Now the temple was filled with men and women, and all the rulers of the Philistines were there. There were 3,000 men and women on the roof watching Samson entertain. And Samson called to the Lord, Lord, O Master Lord, remember me, strengthen me just one more time, O God, so I can get swift revenge against the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Samson took a hold of the metal pillars that supported the temple. He leaned against them with his right hand in one and his left hand on the other. And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. And he pushed hard, and the temple collapsed on the rulers and the people in it. He killed many more people in his death than he had killed during his life. His brothers and all his family went down and brought him back, and they buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah, his father. And he had led Israel for 20 years. The story of Samson continues to be a story that you have a leader that does his own thing. He does what is right in his own eyes. And that's part of the whole story of the book of Judges. Yeah, there are some bright points, but even the judges are completely flawed and show that they don't completely understand how God wants them to live and do their own thing. Samson, last week we talked about, he tried to marry a Philistine. The beginning, or yesterday, this chapter begins with him frequenting a prostitute, and then going to be with Delilah, falling in love with Delilah, who is someone who definitely doesn't have Samson's best interest in mind, but he's so intent on doing his own thing, he's oblivious to what's really going on, that Delilah over and over and over again tries to get this secret. And maybe he's not the smartest guy, but Samson keeps telling her things instead of realizing this is someone who wants to hurt you. And then Samson finally divulges the secret, the thing that would bring his downfall. That, well, if they shave my head, and they do, and his eyes are gouged out, and he's put in prison, and his last act is to be asked to be given strength to essentially put out the support beams of the temple so it will fall. And God allows him that strength, and the Philistines are given a great blow because of, and really it's because of the way that they had treated the people of Israel. They had oppressed them, that now they are, all their leadership is there, and they're given that blow. And we can look at that like, well, God used Samson in that way. But I always think, well, how might God have used him if he had followed after God? If he talks about being dedicated to God at birth, but his whole life doesn't show that. And his last act is to tear down this temple, which God gave him the strength to do it. But what would it have been like if he had actually devoted himself to God, like his parents had devoted him to God? What would it have looked like if he hadn't had an anger problem and had worked through that? As followers of Jesus, we are called to be a people who live at peace, if at all possible. We are called to be a people of love. We may get angry, but we are called not to let that anger have a seed in our life and let that anger grow. Samson didn't do that. We're called to be a people that are holy. Samson did not live a life that showed he was trying to live the way God wanted him to. Did God use him? Yes. But part of the whole point of the book of Judges is, despite the people's continued rebellion, God is faithful. Despite Samson's continued rebellion, even in the end, God still hears him and answers his prayer. May we be a people that are faithful to God. May we be a people that dedicate ourselves to following after Jesus. Hope you guys are doing well. Have a good